So today is what I'm calling the technology goulash. And the reason we're calling that is because there were a number of things we wanted to talk about, but not all on a single theme. And so it's just kind of all mixed in there. And when you're making any good stew or goulash, there are things that you add even as you are making it. So as your questions and ideas come up, we're going to throw those in as well. So, like I said, what we're looking at here is actually the slideshow from National Geographic, courtesy of the Apple TV. And we're putting it, and I have this up here because I've been getting a lot of questions lately about the Apple TV. Why, what's the big deal? Why would I want one? Do I need this? Do I need that? So I thought we'd run through that. So the first, on the back side of page 1, you'll find some information about the Apple TV. So let's talk about what this thing is. This is a little black box right here. That's the whole device right there. It costs $99 from Apple, and it is connected to the internet and to the computers in your home. And what it enables you to do is to use it for a great many things, including viewing movies, television shows, listening to music, viewing photographs, showing things from your iPad, your iPhone, and coming this summer, your computer directly through it without completely wireless. It's on random slideshow, and since I don't currently have an internet connection because AT&T just cut us off, and we'll be dealing with that later today, it's taking what it has stored internally. Now, we can't add anything internally. It actually has no user addressable memory. It has no hard drive in it whatsoever. It takes everything off of the network or the internet. So we're just jumping through these photos. But this is the main menu of, oh gosh, we're not going to see it. I'm going to have to switch it over here because I really want you to see what it's capable of here. Now, the first thing is, do you need to have an Apple computer? No. This is a completely independent product, so don't worry about that. If you watch Netflix, it's in here. If you watch Major League Baseball or hockey, it's actually in here, and you can catch a lot of extra games by doing that. You can rent movies, TV shows, play things from your computer, take the photographs that are on your computer, and see there's a few wireless networks around here. And you can, everybody's going to see my secret password now. Let me get this through. Not so secret, I give it out to everybody. All right, there we go. So what I'm doing right now is this was already set up to run through the DSL here in the room. This is what Tandy and Dusty were using in part last time. I'm switching it actually to a wireless hotspot that I carry. It's actually out in my car right now because I got a better signal out there than in here, so I just left it out there. So it'll connect to the internet through that.
That's the remote that comes with the...
Right, a little remote comes with it. Actually, a little silver remote. This is the older style white remote I just happened to have in my bag, so I grabbed it out. But what it uses, now the one thing that throws most people who buy it without doing their homework ahead of time is it uses a digital television connection called an HDMI cable. Everything up here is connected via HDMI, so we can look at one of these cables in a minute if you want. Looks like this. And if you bought a TV in the last 8 years, you've got this already. But it's where everything's going because we can put full high-definition television and multi-channel audio and internet data over the same cable at the same time. Oh, come on. Connect. So that's the only way you can connect this to your television. You can go through converter boxes, and it's a very painstaking process, and you won't get the full benefit of it. So if you don't have a television that can handle this, leave it aside. But if you do, and if this ever connects, you may have to go out and grab it. Yeah, can you just grab it out of the car, bring it in here? I'm wondering if it went into sleep mode out there. Once you do have this, you can use it as a digital media hub for a great many things. And that's where a lot of devices are going now, this idea of a digital media hub. You might you might take videos on your, let's see, really, okay, it'll bring it in here, she'll bring it in here, we'll get it up and running. Let's see, there we go, yeah, bring it on, let me have it for a sec.
It's really hot because it's hot.
Yeah, it also gets a little warm on its own. Yeah, see, it says it's connected to the internet, and I'm getting through. Let's see if I can get through here. Oh, it's still trying to get to AT&T. Let me change this over. Well, my great demonstration's going down the tubes here, but we'll get it up here in a sec. There's always a way. Let's see if this will get through now. There we go. It's starting to react properly. Let's see if we'll get a connection. Not yet. And it's blinking like it's working. We're not going to get through today. All right. Well, if I can get this connection back, it'll be more impressive. But what it's generally going to be able to do for us is allow you to, I mean, it used to be that you would take your pictures, have slides, you might do a slideshow, you might have taken film and or VHS video and you want to play it on the TV, however you did that. Now the idea is that more stuff is being stored online on the internet, YouTube. Your pictures might go up to Flickr, or they're on your computer, but most of the data that we're capturing today, photographic and motion, is digital. So how do you move all of those disparate formats to the television where you can share them with everybody? And that's what the Apple TV is. It's that conduit that allows that to happen. Let me give this one last try. I just restarted the little modem here to see if it would kick. Plug it in here. All right. And I can also, if both devices are on the same network, I can grab, aha! We got on the internet. You notice how we have a lot more color now? Okay. So, here's what we're talking about. People mostly think of the Apple TV as was a way to watch movies. So we can grab movies here, and they might say, hey, these are the top movies that people are renting or buying, and these are going to fill in with little things. We've got a very slow connection at the moment. So they'll go plodding along. But when one of them comes up, I'm just going to grab one here. Let's see. Got a top movie. I'm sure I can grab, yes, come on. When we grab one of these movies, let's say, Mission Impossible, for example, it's going to come up with a synopsis of the film, and then it's going to allow you to preview it, rent it, buy it, maybe put it on your wish list for another day. And when you hit the preview, we're not going to bother with the preview because it would take about 20 minutes for us to watch something right now, but on a regular connection like you have at home, it'll take about 5 seconds to start. You can watch the trailer for this film and decide if you want to watch it or not. Just on demand. You can do the same thing with television shows. You want to watch Real Housewives of New Jersey? You can do the same thing with music. And what's really nice here is if you have what's called iTunes Match, it actually collects all of the music that's on all of your computers and allows you to play it through here wirelessly. So people often wonder, well, I've got some music on my computer, and my wife's got some on their computer, and my daughter has some on their computer. How can we bring it all together? Well, iTunes Match allows us to do that. And since this is capable of that, I can go grab music out of that stream and play it anywhere, even though this has no memory of its own. I also, speaking of music, can come down here to radio and grab over 800 radio stations from around the world that are available on the internet. So all sorts of different categories. You might say, let's listen to classical. You can pick up classical stations from Portugal, from Paris, from Germany, from Australia, from all over the United States. And you can just come down here and say, let's listen to, the WGBH Boston. Here's Amsterdam. So if we hit that, music's a much slower stream. We might be able to get a little audio out of it. Let's see. But then it's up and running, and you're just listening to the station. Sometimes with the actual voiceover on it, sometimes not. Well, there we go. And so when the piece comes up, it'll tell you what it is. Yeah, see, we're still having this streaming problem, unfortunately. Darn it. Come back. Now, I'm not sure how we got Fat Swaller out of that. Stop it here. Wow. That's pretty good. We went on a classical station, had a Viennese waltz, and moved to Fats Waller. The internet's a great place. So we've got a radio. So now, if you have Netflix, you can sign right into your Netflix account, and then it's available here. You don't have to do it do it and watch it on your computer or your portable device. You can have it on your big screen TV. If you're really into baseball, basketball, hockey, those are on there. Wall Street Journal, and then Photostream. What this is doing actually down here is it's grabbing photographs that I've taken on my digital devices, on my phone, on my iPad. Maybe I've imported them for some reason, and here they are. They're available, just instantly. So I could come down and say, I want to look at the sunset picture. There it is. It never was stored on here. It's grabbing it on the fly. And you can just go right through these. Here we are doing some installation at the church. These are the phone lines at the church. These are the things I store on my phone because they're helpful to me. But what's great about this is that sometimes people say, well, I've taken pictures. How do I get them into my computer? If you're able to use the Photostream option, you go home and you turn on your computer and they're already there. Because your phone, your iPad, whatever iOS device you use to take it, actually sends that automatically as soon as it takes the picture into your stream. And your other devices pick up on it. So it's really fun to take a picture and then pick up your iPad and say, let me show you this picture, and it's already there. And then, of course, if you've done photo sharing, such as on Flickr, you can grab your pictures out of here. Yes?
Are any of these free?
Well, movies, of course, and TV shows you would pay for to rent. Music is, you either buy it, or if you do radio, that's entirely free. Obviously, anything you have on your computer. Netflix is a low cost. It's $8 a month for unlimited viewing. They don't have always the latest run movies, but they do have still about 600,000 movies in their set.
Okay, we get Netflix, but like...
That one's free. Obviously, YouTube's free. Vimeo's free. All the podcasts, all this stuff. Hulu isn't on here. Yeah, Hulu, they haven't signed a contract with Apple, so they'll show up here later, probably. And the nice thing is, since it's just a software update away, if they want more capacity, they're off and running. If you have things that are already on your computers, for example, this is grabbing it directly from my computer here. It can see things that I have. Just jump right into the music. Look at artists. Go down to find whatever you want to listen to. And you can play the music there. So you've got a lot of ways to get the media from your computer, your devices, or the internet to the TV where it's more of a central sharing place. That's why we use it a lot in projection, because it's very convenient. It's also very convenient because if I want to pick up my iPad and talk about what it is that we're doing, I can literally move it over there. I have to make sure I'm on the same wireless. As long as I'm on the same Wi-Fi as the Apple TV, and it can also be wired in with Ethernet, then the two devices will see each other and work together. So let's switch it over here. There we go. And all right, here we go. There. And there's the iPad. And if I flip it, then it's a little bit bigger. But it's a great way to do presentations, because now I don't have to be wired, as long as I turn on the no flipping. And so even if it's just pictures that you wanted to show somebody from your iPad, or your friend brings over their device and they want to show you something, you can demonstrate it this way. You can show them a program. If we wanted to talk about how mail, we talked about this before, how mail works on the iPad, we can bring it up right there, nice and easy, and I don't have to worry about the cord dropping out of the iPad as I move around. So that's why things like this are really interesting, because, like the Apple TV, because they give you their digital hub, they're a way to move your data around, share it with other people. Really nice way to just rent a movie if you want, or watch something on Netflix. So I brought that up primarily because I've had a lot of questions about the Apple TV. Is there anything that I didn't cover that you'd like to know?
What's happening this summer?
What's happening this summer is that there will be a new software update for your computer called Mountain Lion. You know, Apple's continuing attempt to find other cats to name their current operating system after. It's all been a series of cats. We're currently on Lion. We're going to Mountain Lion. And Mountain Lion will actually allow you to, just as I had my iPad show up there, so the computer will also be able to show up there. If you have a desktop computer, it's probably not going to be too relevant unless your TV's in the same room. But because otherwise this can grab material off of your computer without needing that upgrade. Good? All right. So that's one fun thing to do. Now the other things we wanted to talk about were, we've talked about passwords before, but I wanted to get a little bit more into it because it's something that's been an issue, and also about backup. So let's switch over here. Did I go to 4? I went to 1. Good. Should come around. Okay. So in your packets you have, get all these windows out of the way here. In your packets you have information about passwords and about backups. Let's talk about that. So the first one is called How I'd Hack Your Weak Passwords. This is an article online that really did a great job of spelling out why it is that we care about passwords. And I know that we talked about how to create a good, strong password. We'll talk about it again a little bit. But one of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about much is how you keep track of all those passwords. Now, the first thing to remember about passwords is that it's not required that they all be cryptic. It depends what it is you're locking up. If you're locking up the garden shed to make sure that nobody steals your shears or the kids don't get into the fertilizer, you don't need a very strong lock. You just need a basic deterrent. But if you're taking your heirloom jewels and wanting to make sure that they're safe, you're probably going to put them in a safety deposit box in a bank and really lock them down. You know, and the bank has to have a key, and you have to have a key, and they have to identify who you are. A lot of security goes into that. So it goes on the internet. If you have an account for Flickr, you probably don't need a really cryptic, difficult password unless you're storing stuff up there that you absolutely wouldn't want anybody else to ever see. At which point you really shouldn't be putting on Flickr. But your banking information, stock market information, when you log into a prescription medicine service, maybe you log into your doctor's office or Medicare, some of my clients do, you probably want that to be a pretty good password. And the problem is that if you do a really good password, they're hard to remember. What are the ones, he says it perfectly right here. If I wanted to guess your password, I'd start with your spouse's name, your children's names, the street you live on, your dog's name, and see if I could get something out of one of those. If not, I'd get the last 4 digits of your social security number, and trust me, that's not hard to find. Last 4 digits of your telephone number. Digits in your address. How many of you have ever used the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Believe me, I still have clients today who use that password. It scares the heck out of me. And I've talked to them about it. A lot of devices, including the internet router that you have at your house, have a default password of password. And it doesn't get changed very often. And it's really amazing how I can drive around a neighborhood even today and see if I can get into people's networks by typing password. And it's amazing how often I still do.
I know, like, if I type my password in at the bank and I do it 3 times wrong or something, they say I've got to call them.
Correct.
So how do they search? I mean, how do they know when they found it? Like somebody trying to break your password.
Well, because they'll get the authentication back that it worked. Now, for example, if I try to authenticate with your router in your house, it will never lock me out. If I try 500,000 times, it will never lock me out. Now, the router at your house isn't necessarily that valuable to me, except that if you have changed that password, now I can look at it and go, oh, you based it on your dog's name. That's good. Okay, what other pets do they have? First of all, I'm going to now try that password elsewhere. I'm going to start with the least important passwords you have and see what you used. And then I'm going to try them on more important things. This is how somebody, when they're trying to hack your password, is going to do it. If they're going to do a brute force attack, what they're going to do is they're going to use a network of computers. Now, whenever we hear about viruses on the internet, it used to be that they did harm to your computer. They erased data. They stole information. Honestly, these days, they don't do that at all. There's no interest in doing it. What they do is they become part of what's called a botnet, a robotic network. And they get a little piece of code that says, hey, you can use my computing power to be part of a larger network of computing devices. So if I have one computer, I might be able to try 1,000 passwords a minute. But if I have 1,000 computers on the network, I can try 1,000,000 passwords a minute. And actually, the speeds are much, much higher than that. So all of a sudden, you have this distributed computing power that is so powerful and so easy and free, because it's all gotten through through viruses, that's where a lot of computing power comes from. And you've got a lot of unused cycles on your computer that you can spare, but you don't really want to know that you're being used to hack bank accounts, to hack passwords, and do other things. But they can, if you have a kind of a service that isn't going to lock you out after 3 tries, they'll just keep hitting it until the lock clicks. Now, one of the most effective ways to create a password that you will remember is to remember your favorite song, or remember your favorite poem, the first line of a book you love, something that you will always know. The example I used last time was Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Well, if we do that, you bring text edit here, make it big. What might we do? Let me get a big font here real quick. All right. That's going to take a moment, too. The whole computer is ticked off about the internet situation. There we go. Thank you. I just want to make this big so that you can see it nicely. Okay, so if I wanted to think of Amazing Grace, I might think of Amazing Grace. Oh, come on. How sweet the sound, right? That's not in any dictionary. It doesn't mean anything. But if you can remember that, off you go. So I actually have a lot of clients who are using this mnemonic because they have their favorite song and they take their favorite line of the song and it goes out. You could then start to do things like, instead of the letter O, you might use the number 0. In this font, they don't look that different, but they are. Instead of the letter I might use the number 1 and start to substitute things out. If you take a common password, let's say Pluto, 5-letter password, and we now capitalize the second letter, L, and we substitute the O with a 0, we take the ability to hack that password from literally about a minute to a couple of days worth of computing power, just for those 2 changes. Because people go with what's easy. All lowercase, all uppercase. They don't include things like the pound symbol, exclamation point, asterisk. All those are legal to use. And so if you do these substitutions, or you do a common password with some numbers and some capitalization, and you throw some odd punctuation on it, it becomes gibberish to a computer. So things like that will really help keep you safe. So even if you did, let's go back to Pluto here. So what I'm talking about there is, so we do our L, like that. That's a lot harder, and that's really hard. Because the range of, if we just say it's just letters, we have 26 possible combinations for every position. If we say it's capital letters as well, now we're at 52. If we add numbers, now we're at 62. If we add symbols, we're at over 100 for every possible position. Add another digit, and every time you add another place, you go from 5 to 6 to 8 to 12 characters in that password. It goes up exponentially every time you add one more character. So it makes sense to take time to do this. But the next problem is we all have these days, even if you use the internet very little, you probably have 30 passwords. I literally have probably over 500 that I have to deal with. I'm not ever going to remember them. And especially because some of them are absolutely pure gibberish. If you looked at them, because they're for very secure sites. If you looked at them, they're 24 characters long, and they're completely random letters, numbers, and symbols. I would never, ever be able to remember that. So what I do is I use a password manager. And I've included a few pages in there on password managers for both the Mac and the PC. And so you can do your choices. But here's how it works. If I want to go on the internet and I want to go to, I'll go to a simple one for us here. Okay. We go to Apple, or even let's go to Facebook, because that's our common play thing. All right, so if we go to Facebook, and I don't know if I'm still logged in, we'll find out eventually. What I have up here in the menu bar, I have an extra symbol. Let's see. Okay, log in, sign up, or learn more. Perfect. So as soon as this page loads, which will take a moment, we can see about logging in. What I have added, though, is I've added a little symbol up here with a key. This is part of 1Password. It's one of the programs that works on the Mac and the PC and the iOS devices, and it's mentioned in your handouts. It's the one I prefer, but please take a look at the other options. What it allows me to do is when I click on it, first of all, I have to authenticate if it's been more than 5 minutes since the last time I used it. So if I walk away from the computer, somebody else can't just grab my passwords. So I'll authenticate in. Now, it looks at this and says, oh, well, I have a couple of things that relate to Facebook. Right? I have my Facebook account. I have one for the church. And then I have a whole bunch of other things down here that are completely unrelated. But it recognizes that I'm in the Facebook domain, so you probably mean one of these. So if I click on Facebook right now, it fills in my information, and it logs me in. I didn't have to remember my login or my password. It took care of it. And as it always does, don't save. So now I'm in. What's even better is that I can be here and decide that I want to go somewhere else. Let me go to one of my Apple sites. I didn't even go to the web page, but I typed what I was looking for. I was looking for ACN. It opens a new window, takes me to the website, and when we get the internet connection through, it's going to actually fill in my login and password and get me into the site. So now I don't even have to worry about going somewhere and then entering my passwords. I could tell it to do it all for me.
So it becomes your bookmarks too.
So it becomes my bookmarks too. It becomes my organization.
So you used your password to actually access
All the other passwords.
the account of the website that you wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a backwards.
Well, I basically, it's like I have a book of passwords in front of me, but I've got a lock on it. So I have to unlock the book to even look at the passwords. That's all I did. I said, let's prove that I really am me and that I'm allowed to get in here. Oh, so here, it got me here. It's putting in my information, and then It's going to log me in. It's just moving slowly.
Can't your first password be hacked pretty easily?
My first password theoretically could, but like the bank account, if you do it 3 times wrong, it locks you out. And then I have to go through a lot of trouble to get back in. It's also one I change fairly frequently. So keep it.
And you just only have to remember that one. You can change it.
Exactly, and you can make it more cryptic and more difficult to work with. Okay? What's that?
You said wait till you get to be 70.
Oh, well, but so my mom is currently going into Alzheimer's, and it's a difficult thing to watch, but it is remarkable the things that she never will forget. She really can't remember what she did this morning, but she will remember absolutely that trip we took in 1976 to XYZ. Those are clear as bell. There are things that we will all forget, but there also are things that we will all remember, and if they are personal to us, we can find ways to manage them. I have one consultant that I work with who has a formula for every company he works with for how to create his password and login. Based on their company information and his company information, he can generate this information. And since those two things are known, if you know his formula, you could figure this stuff out. So he keeps that pretty tight. But it helps him because no matter which company he's at, he can just log right in because in his mind he can do the calculation. Now the other thing that's really hard to do sometimes is generate that good password when we want to have something secure for medical or banking uses, for example. So let me log out here. This is also where 1Password can really help you, and it'll remember this bizarre password it creates. So here I would like to create a new password for this account. I can go back to my password manager, and down here I can choose the fourth item down. See if I can scroll. I can't. The little safe, and it's a password generator. And I'm going to show you a couple places in computers where you can check the quality of your passwords, but this is one of them. And when you go onto a lot of sites today, they'll say it must be at least 8 characters. It must include a symbol. It must include a number, whatever it is. So we can say, okay, it must be, 8 characters or more. Let's go with 10, for example. I want to have 3 digits as part of that. And I want to have 2 symbols as part of that. So I go to 2. Now, none of us is going to remember that password casually. But the nice thing is if I say, okay, I want you to fill this in, it's going to automatically put it in the password field for me and remember that it did it. So that when I come back here, I don't have to remember that password. It's already got it in the database. And most password managers can handle this for you. They can also have your personal information on here, your work information. So when you go to purchase something and they want you to fill out your name and address and all that stuff, this will do it for you automatically. You just choose, I want it based on my home, my work, the house in where are you guys going? Huh?
Bemidji.
Bemidji?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want something sent to that house, instead of having to type all that out, you could have a profile for that, and it sends it all, and it fills that in. And you can do the same for credit cards. And so you don't have to go through and pull out the credit card and put all that information in. You actually can have it fill all that in for you. What's really great about that is that there are sites that you may use on a regular basis where you're tempted to say, click that little button that says, remember my credit card information? Well, I never do that, because I've got it stored in here securely, and it will fill it in. Now, the other advantage of this particular system, why I use this one, and there's a number that do this, but it stores its data in an encrypted database that I can store online. I actually store it in Dropbox. What that means to me is that if I add new information to here, change a credit card, have a different login to a website, I can then go over and pick up my iPhone or my iPad, open the same program on there, and the data is already there. because they're all using the same shared database. Now, the encryption on that data file, if I ever forgotten my password, I'd just throw the file away, because it would take NSA level code breaking about a year or two to break the encryption on that database. It is absolutely painful how big the encryption is. So I don't worry that I put it in this thing called Dropbox, because take it, have a good time. You'll use a whole lot of resources for no good to try to get anything out of it. So what it does is you say, well, what good is that really, really difficult password if I have to get at it from somewhere else and I can't? If a password manager is capable of being used on all of the devices you use or all of the computers you use, you can get away with doing that, and you can improve your security. So that is what we have about password managers. Any questions on all of that?
Now, that information is stored not on your computer, but on the internet.
It is stored on my computer. The system I use, and I know we've talked about this one before, but we can talk about it a little bit again, is called Dropbox. There's a number of ways you can do this. This is one service. What Dropbox does is an internet service that gives you access to the folders on your computer, specific ones. It may just create one if you like. You can set it up any way you like. But that folder can now exist on my computer and on Tandy's computer and on my iPad and on my phone and on my friend's computer out in Westlake. And I have folders like that, because I'll actually, each individual folders, I can specify who has access to it. It's a folder like any other on your computer. So as soon as I put something in there, it's on her computer, it's everywhere. So since this database resides in Dropbox, just by virtue of me changing it by adding that new credit card number, it's changed for everybody, because it's a single file. Systems like Dropbox are very clever in the respect that if every time I changed one thing I had to upload the whole file, they'd be incredibly slow. But they can actually detect the differences between the old file and the new. I just changed one line in that Word file. It's not going to upload the whole Word file. It's only going to upload the bits that changed. So it's very, very fast. And it becomes really valuable. All the projects I'm working on at any one time, long-term storage, that's either on another hard drive or other places on my computer. But projects I'm working on right now are always in a Dropbox space. So that if I have an idea when I'm out and about and I want to pick up my phone and look at that document and change something, because trust me, by the time I get back to my computer, I will have forgotten. That is definitely my mode of operation. I'll jump right into it.
Is this KeyPass good enough for most people?
I don't know all the products on there, so there's ones.
Free, so,
Yeah, and if you have a Windows PC and you're using Windows 7, it actually has a password manager built into it. That can be good to a lot of people, and that's mentioned at the end of the article. It's the last thing there. Mm-hmm. It has that sort of thing built into it. So, if this, again, these are things that we're talking about because we've gotten questions about these topics when we go into them. So, you have to decide for yourself what makes the most sense for you. But think carefully about passwords. They're very, very important. They're usually there to protect something that you don't want somebody else to have. Make it something worth dealing with. It's like the old adage about cars. There was a story about a guy who had a really, really nice Porsche, and he had it stolen, and insurance replaced it, and he finally got to the point of he would chain it between two trees at night, from the axles. That'll do it. He came out one morning, and the chains are sitting there, and the car's gone. If somebody wants something bad enough, they can get it. The question is, how much pain do you want to put them through before they get it, and so they'll stop? Is it a drive-by opportunity, and they saw the door open, so they went in because you had a weak password? Or did they try it and realize, no, this is going to be painful, and moved on to an easier target? And And just to repeat something we said a while back about internet security, since we talked about credit cards in here, don't worry about using your credit cards on the internet. You are protected by the credit card company, and all of the sites that you're using, if you're using reputable sites, use names that you know, they all encrypt the data that you're transmitting, making it harder for anybody to get. And it is truly easier to get your credit card number when you pay for dinner at a restaurant, because you hand your credit card off to somebody who leaves for up to 10 minutes and comes back. It's really, really easy to take that data. It's really, really hard to do it here. Yeah. When you physically hand over that card, that is the lowest security you'll ever have. The lowest security you'll ever have for your computer is when somebody can sit down at it. If somebody can get at it over the internet, you have some vulnerability. But if they can sit down right here, chances are you have a lot of vulnerability. It's a proximity. Yeah. Okay, what Tanya's referring to, and she has a very good point, is if I want to go to, let's see, who would have it? Amazon would have it. Well, I could go to, Yeah, Amazon should have it. When I just go to Amazon to look around, I'm not logged in, I'm not buying anything, it says HTTP. That's standard hypertext transfer protocol for the internet. But if there's an S after it, then it means secure. And you'll notice that often the menu bar will change from blue to green. There may be a key lock in the actual menu bar. They're telling you that we actually have encrypted this data. So, here, I can sign in, use my password manager when the window comes up to log in, and there it is, HTTPS. We've already gone to secure. You notice that?
Why it changes color then.
And that's why it often changes color. Correct. So they're letting you know that they've secured your data. The information that's going back and forth between you and Amazon is in an encrypted tunnel right now. Very, very hard to get at.
I've had an occasion where the HTTPS is red and crossed out. What would that do?
That means that the certificate, the way that the company proves that they are who they say they are, is broken. Either because it's expired, or because it actually is a fake site. And it definitely does happen. Let me bring up my mail for a second, just see if I can show you something. So it should worry you when you see that.
Okay.
If you ever see that with your bank or something, log out immediately. You just don't want to be there. Lately, they'd be in the trash. Lately, I've been getting a lot of spam, as we all do. But it used to be really easy to look at an email and just instantly know it was spam. And I've actually been getting calls and emails from the church saying, what is this? And did somebody make this charge or whatever? And it's because, darn it, it's taking too long. It's because they're getting really good in what they look like. They look dead on like they're from a bank, credit card agency, some vendor. Oh, we had a problem with your credit card number. Can you verify this? Can you verify the access code or something? Let me see if I can find one. Yeah. Let me see. All this usual junk. I know I had one. Yeah. Okay. So like this one, it's really easy to know that that's not really meant for not anything you wanted, right? You look at this. I mean, a great example is look at that address. Not only does it not make any sense to you, but it ends in the letters RU, which means Russia. So never click on anything with Russia in the title, because that is absolutely something you don't want. However, I want to see if I can find one of those that looks perfect. I should have kept it. This isn't one of them. But this will show you what I wanted you to see. I've gotten ones that look this good, right? But that are not from Xerox. And the way I can tell is this. when I go across actually this one might, yeah, this one actually could be a problem. Because when I go across their links, they all go somewhere not related to Xerox.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you move your mouse without clicking across a link, you see how it shows up the address of where it's going to go? These actually don't go where I would think I'd want them to go. Now, the thing I mentioned in the past is that if you ever have an issue like this, feel free to just go to, you get an email from your bank. You're not sure if you want to click on that link or not. Just go to your bank on your own, log in, and if they have something to tell you, they'll let you know. But never try to click on these links. But if you want to find out if it really is spam, I got to keep one out specifically so I can show it off some of these days.
It was a PayPal one. That was the one from the church recently, right?
That's right. Let's see if we can find that one. As soon as you go across the link from PayPal, that one's correct. Let's see. There we go. So Darrell says, hey, what's this thing from PayPal? All right. So it says you sent a payment. And if I want to see the details of this transaction, I hit that. It goes to DZ, it's kind of hard, dzsolu.com or something. So it's going to take me to some spam site where they're going to try to sell me, you name it. But just by clicking on here, it should be taking me to dzmusicslovak.web. It should be taking me to PayPal. But instead, it immediately reveals itself. So if you ever have a question, just roll your cursor over it and you'll immediately see whether it belongs there or not. I mean, all you got to know is, this is from PayPal. I roll over it. It doesn't start with PayPal. I'm done. I'll be happy to go to PayPal if I have any questions, but I'm not going to click on this link.
How do they get into your address book?
Oh, that's a breeze. Yeah, they don't even need to get into your address book. All they need to do is notice who you've been sending to, and they can just pick it up as it goes across the line. That stuff's not encrypted.
Somebody got into my Yahoo address book.
Well, in the last week, Nancy and I both got something from Norm, which was like,
Oh, yeah.
they deleted it immediately.
Yeah, I've been getting
And sent two more
right.
for people in the church who don't communicate with me.
All they need to know is that it was a good address to start with. And if you look at those ones from Norm, if you actually roll over them, it'll show you that they're,
Yeah, I didn't look at
you know,
those.
yeah, one of the Slavic sites. It's really interesting.
I keep on getting stuff about Viagra, getting longer, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I don't go any place. that
Doesn't
way,
matter.
so-
Yeah, it has nothing to do with you. No, but seriously, I mean, honestly,
But why did they say that? Who's
They-
big enough to
they s- well,
click on it?
there are people who click on it and buy it. Absolutely.
I get stuff in Chinese.
That's a true mistake. Yeah, I mean, they're wasting their time there. But remember the old adage about direct mail advertising? What percentage was a good percentage return? 1%. If 1% of the people even called you after you sent out a mailer, you were doing great. Wow, 1%. None of us want a bank account that gives 1%. So on the internet, they're happy with 1% of 1% because they can send out 10 million emails with one click. And no problem for them. They're sending it out through your computer and your computer and your computer. That's the botnet. It's very, very low cost. So why not? Why not just saturate the market? They don't care who's on the other end. Somebody's going to click on it. That's all they're looking for. I'd love to say that there's a really, really effective way to block this stuff out. There's really only one that I know of. And there are services that you can get where anytime somebody sends you an email that you don't know, then they immediately get a message back that says, this person doesn't know you, so answer these questions and they'll decide if they want to accept your mail. So it's really, and we've all probably had to deal with those. And it's really annoying if it's somebody who's, a good friend or a family member, and you're like, they're even set up to, if you haven't sent email to that person in, say, 4 months, you're locked out again. And you have to be reconfirmed, because what if... Now, that does not 100% guarantee you still won't get that stuff from Norm and from Eleanor Serrano, who's the other one who's been hijacked recently, because they're on your list. They're okay. They're going to get through. The fact is, the delete button is really easy. It goes away really, really fast. So try to do that. Spam software is good. And if you want to spend the time to configure your spam software, that's great. If you have a Mac, it does an auto-configuration for you. But your internet providers are trying to do a better job. If you have AOL, forget it. You're going to get all sorts of spam. They do a terrible job of it. They do a terrible job of protecting your address book. But if you're... Exactly. But if you're, for example, with Google, also free, you get very, very little spam through Google. Because they are really, really, they've got the best search engine in the world focused on, oh, by the way, they're constantly knocking things out.
Firefox, the same way?
Okay, so we're talking about internet services, not internet browsers.
Okay.
Time Warner blocks quite a bit, yeah. Yeah, they do a really good job. Yahoo, sort of. So different services have different capacities. To clarify, internet services, we're talking about AOL, Yahoo, Google, Time Warner. Those are people out on the internet who provide you service that you subscribe to in some fashion. Things like Firefox, Safari, Opera, these browsers, they're ways that you look at the internet. They are not your internet. You have an internet connection that comes into your house just like you have water that comes into your house. But the water that comes into your house gets used in the garden and in the shower and in the kitchen. Well, on your computer, it gets used for your browser to look at the internet, your email client to read your email, and things like the Apple TV to play movies. Sharing the same connection. So separate the way you look at the internet from your connection and what's on the internet from your connection. They are all separate things that combine to provide you the experience, but it really helps to know. Consequently, I use two main browsers on my computer. I use Safari and Chrome. The reason I use two is that there are some websites that like one better than they like the other. Pure and simple. Sorry, my browser keeps coming.
It's going to get worse as we go to HTML5.
Yeah, this is going to change. The other thing is that if you don't like Flash, because Flash actually uses a lot of your computer. I mean, I for a long time I had a utility up in my menu bar that automatically would turn red if Flash was using more than 25% of my processor, which was more often than I'd like. And I could click up there and it would kill Flash on my computer. I've now actually completely removed Flash from my computer. And if I go on the web to a site that has Flash that I need to go to, I switch over to Chrome, which has Flash built into the browser. But it's only in the browser and not anywhere else on your computer. So it helps you, your computer runs cooler, run more responsive, and you don't have more vulnerability. So there's the goulash. We're kind of going off topic as questions come up, and that's good. I want to do that. Now, the other part we wanted to talk about for security, we talked about passwords. If you have any other questions about that, jump on. But the other thing I want to do is talk about backup. I have to have this discussion with every single client I see, and sometimes multiple times. My dad used to say that he would gladly pay twice as much for insurance than he does right now if you could promise him he'd never have to use it. That's an interesting idea. Backup is the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. And you think, I don't have anything really that important. But if something were to happen to your computer, and something will, because they are stupid machines, it really is true, and they are physical machines, they will break down. If something happens and all of a sudden you realize, oh, all those photographs were there. All the data I've had to get into my bank account is there. All the, you name it, is there, and I want it back. You can get it back, most likely, and it can cost you thousands of dollars to have the hard drive forensically recreated. But for $80, you can go buy a hard drive at Best Buy or Costco or whatever you want, plug it into your computer. Depending on the computer you have, it may have built-in backup software, or like the Apples have built-in backup software, or you can buy comprehensive backup software. Then it will run all on its own. But it's now protecting everything you have. All of your photographs, your music, letters, emails, whatever it is. Even applications these days, a lot of them, it's a lot easier to have a backup that you can restore than try to re-download it, reauthorize it, deal with all those things. So, for example, what we use on Mac for a lot of my clients is what's called Time Machine. This is a built-in process, and it's a good way of showing exactly what happens in these cases. Where are we, Time Machine? Hello. I've lost it. There it is. So what Time Machine does is you have to buy a hard drive that's attached to your computer, and the first time you do this, the computer goes, hey, new hard drive, can I have it? You let it have it, and what it does is it makes an exact copy of everything that's on your computer. Then, every hour, it looks at the computer and says, okay, what's different about you? What have you done? Oh, you got some email, you wrote a letter, you loaded a bunch of new photographs. Let me have those, and just those. So now it takes, the first time you do it, it's a lot of data. The next time you do it, it's a very little bit of data that just gets tacked on. And then tacked on and tacked on and tacked on, and on it goes. But you don't have to keep recreating the entire thing every single time. This is typical of backup software. What's unusual about Time Machine is that it literally comes with the machine and wants to run automatically. Apple was tired of people not backing up. They decided they'd take it into their own hands. But you can use any kind of software you feel comfortable with. You can use software that does a clone. It makes an exact copy of your hard drive. Now, that doesn't mean it makes an exact copy of the files on your drive. That's what a regular backup does. A clone says, oh, well, this file was exactly in these sectors on the hard drive. I'm going to put it in these sectors on the clone. And the actual ID number of the hard drive was this. I'm going to make the hard drive ID exactly the same. It can clone everything, so that your computer couldn't tell the difference between the two. That's one way of doing a backup. But this incremental backup is the way that most systems work. So it's very low overhead for you. Hard drives are cheap these days. And it's just such basic insurance. If you have a good backup and your hard drive goes down, we can have you back up and running in an hour or two. But if you don't have a good backup, may or may not get your data back. And it's going to cost a lot more money. So I've included in there descriptions of backup and of backup programs, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody took time to look at that. If you have an iOS device or an Android device, you can back those up on your computer, and when your computer backs up, it's backing up that as well.
Really?
Anything that's on your computer gets backed up there too. So that gives you another layer of security. The iOS devices and soon the Android devices will also now back up directly to the internet. So there's dedicated storage for them, and they'll, just as you walk around, they're backing themselves up. So that photograph that you took yesterday and it was really important, it's perfect of your grandchild, and you haven't gotten back to your computer yet, it's already taken care of.
You back up your
So,
phone?
do I back up my phone? I do back up my phone. Huh?
How?
So what I do is, I did use the internet backup for a while, and then I am not the typical user. I have way more applications than most people. So when it came time for me I had to restore my phone because of some programming stuff I was doing. It was really painful for me to restore my phone from the internet. It took so long because of the amount of applications I had. And it was at that point I realized, okay, in my situation, I need to back up to the computer. The computer, if you're using iTunes with an iOS device, will back up your device every time you connect it automatically.
Just connect it with.
Yeah, when you connect it with a cord, or in the latest version, you have to connect it to your computer, and then there's a checkbox in iTunes that says connect wirelessly. So let's see, this guy's on the same network. in a moment, this ought to appear in the sidebar. Yep, there it is. There's my iPad. So I'm not connected with any wires, but because I did this option down here at the bottom, sync with this iPad over Wi-Fi, and you can do this with your phone as well, or iPod Touch. Just by being on the network, they're connected. And every night when I connect this to power to charge when I go to sleep, it automatically backs up the whole thing. Every time. Adds any new information, does all that. I could ask it to synchronize right now, and it would do it wirelessly. But the idea of this option was just by plugging it into power, it's now automatically backing you up every time. Because so many people weren't plugging their devices. At night they're plugging in by the bedside table. They weren't plugging into the computer, but once every few weeks, they lose it or it gets broken, and they go, oh, I want to restore from my backup. Oh, where's all my, oh, I hadn't backed up in. Take your pick. This, it's backing up automatically every time. The less you have to think about it, the better it gets. So that's how, and then as soon as my computer gets backed up, because my computer gets backed up every time it's at home, this data is getting backed up with it, because it's on the drive.
Your phone is,
My phone's hooked up exactly the same way. Exactly the same way.
that work on a PC, right?
That works on a PC as well. If you're using, with Android it's going to be different, and I don't profess to know specifically how those work. With iOS, if you have iTunes on the PC, this will work. So no, you don't have to have a Mac to do a lot of stuff. So does what I say about backup make sense? Okay. It is not difficult. You do not need to pay somebody to come in and configure it for you. It really has gotten better and better and better. And it is not expensive anymore. A lot of times it's free. The software can be free or very low cost, and the hard drives are very low cost. And frankly, for example, if you go to Costco and you buy a Western Digital drive right now, or a Seagate drive, they come with backup software on the drive. Here you go. Thanks for buying our drive. And so they know that most people are buying those drives for backup. So they just put the stuff right on there to back up automatically. I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Tandy?
I was just, is there anyone that's actually not backing up?
Be honest. One, okay. Any questions about how the backups work? Okay. Oh yeah, that's good. The other thing is that people, don't worry about buying the most expensive drive to do your backup. Your hard drive in your computer is going to fail. At some point, your backup drive is going to fail. They're moving at very high speed for a long time, 7,500, 10,000 RPMs, and they're on all day long, right? They will wear out. It's simply, nature. Then you're going to replace it and start backing up again. Your hard drive in your computer and your backup drive are not going to go at the same time unless you have a catastrophic event at the house. Which brings up one other thing. What do you do if you worry about a catastrophic event at the house or at the office? There's two approaches. When you set up backup software, you have the option to include other hard drives. So I have clients who every Monday bring the hard drive from home, swap it with the one in the office, and take it home. So you have drive A and drive B. Drive A is at home, drive B is in the office. They switch them every Monday. And it backs up everything in the office. If there was a fire at the office, they were within a week of having everything that was in that office on the hard drive at home. You can do this, have a mutual swap with a friend. Say, you know what, I'll tell you what, let me store my hard drive at your house and you store yours at mine. Both of our houses are not going to burn down in the same moment. Right? Now yeah, exactly. We hope that's not going to happen. The other thing is that, in our house we know that, God forbid something were to happen, we're not even going to worry about grabbing the computers. We're going to grab the backup drives and run. Because we know we've got everything on it, they're quick and easy, and that's going to get us out. Now, one thing we don't do is you can also back up over the internet. And I had a client asking me about that yesterday. And it's a very interesting option. It works well for the iPads and the iPhones. But the client I was talking to had 400 gigabytes of photos alone. And so she's like, well, I'm backing up here, but I really want to back up on the internet. Right now, that's going to cost you a ton of money, first of all. That much storage on the internet is going to cost you a lot. Secondly, you may have a good internet connection at home, meaning that you can download fast. But how fast can you upload? Have you ever tried to send a big file to a friend? It takes a while, doesn't it? It's because we have what's called asymmetrical connections. It's cheaper for the service providers to give us an asymmetrical connection. You get 10 megabits of speed down and 1 up. And that's about the normal ratio, 10 to 1. You can pay for a connection that's symmetrical, 10 by 10. It's a lot more expensive unless you have fiber optic. Then it's the way the fiber optic works, but so few places have it still.
Where does Time Machine back up? On your disk or?
Oh, okay. Let me come back to Time Machine in just a second. I'll give you that. So for this client who has a decent internet connection and 400 gigabytes of photos, she can upload those to storage, and it would take her roughly a month and a half of continuous upload to get there. That's how slow the connection is. So if you want to back up online, you have to choose one of two things. You either choose which things are very specifically important. Just my documents, just my personal records, whatever. That I'll back up. If you want to back up a large amount of data like photographs, then you search for services, and there are a number of them, like Mozy, where you can mail them a hard drive. And that's the beginning of your backup. They'll transfer it into your storage locally, which will take them about an hour. And now it's only the difference between when you sent them the hard drive and now is what you have to make up in the backup. Now it's going to take you a few hours tonight to get to that first backup, and then every night it's going to take another 30 minutes to back up what changed that day. So if you want to use one of those services, please look for one that can do an automatic download for you, because it's just painful otherwise. And I do know one client who did spend 29 days of a continuous connection to upload his photographs. He got them done, but I thought that was a bit silly. 29 days. Now, going back to Time Machine or any backup software, if it backs up onto your hard drive, it's worthless. Because if your hard drive dies, you've lost the backup and the original. So you never want to do that. No, it backs up onto an external drive or networked source or whatever you want to do. Because you can have a hard drive in the house or the office that services multiple computers, for example. You can store those there. Time Machine, however, has one very unique property when you move to macOS Lion and Mountain Lion. Right now, this computer has been backing up since I left the house. And when I get home, it transfers that backup data back to my hard drive. Why is this interesting? Well, part of backup is I'm working on this Word file, and I'm typing along and I'm doing my thesis, and I change one section, not realizing that I actually just wiped out 10 pages of my thesis. Right? And when I realize this mistake, it might be 2 days later, and I want to get it back. If you have a good backup, you can literally go back and pull that one file from 2 days ago and drop it in. Now you're on a trip, and you've been gone for a week, and you've been working on that document. Matter of fact, you started the document on the trip, and you've been changing it all the way along. You have no backup. This actually provides that. It is incrementally backing up all those changes in a compartment on the drive. It saves some space for itself, backs up those changes, and then as soon as you get back and plug into your real hard drive, it puts it all over and clears it out and starts again.
So if your hard drive were to actually die, you've really lost it.
Correct.
But you can incrementally go back in time, which is one of my favorite features.
Yes. Even without your hard drive attached.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
What's
So-
the reason for not depending just on Time Machine?
For me, I love Time Machine. That's what we use. But you all knew coming into this class that I was biased towards Apple, and I've never made any secret of that. But I've done my best to give you alternatives, even if I feel otherwise.
Well, no, you said don't. You said you should probably take it back up.
Oh, you know, I apologize. This is an article from somebody else. I didn't write these articles. I edited them. Yeah. Now, what a lot of people do, and I do occasionally, is they keep a second backup. And here's the theory for that. And so they keep a clone backup and they keep a regular backup. Here's why. If your hard drive dies, you no longer have a backup because your data exists in one place. As soon as your data is in one place at any point in time, you no longer have a backup. So, it doesn't simultaneously, but it does allow you, if you remove a hard drive and put another one on, it'll rotate them automatically. So remember I was talking about taking one, taking the hard drive from the office home and back? A time machine will allow for that, but it won't do two simultaneously.
So if you had one and then you unplug it.
And you put the other one on.
Plug the other one in.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is checking base, so it's going to back up more information.
Correct, because now it's going to say, oh, you haven't backed up in a week
Right.
on this hard drive, so it's going to fill in that last week.
Okay, so it is a way to,
There absolutely is.
if you're really thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Whenever I switch computers,
yeah, because I couldn't see any reason to have another.
then I do that. I have a clone, it goes in the save. So at that point in time, I have.
An
that
absolute
backup.
copy. Mm-hmm. There is a difference between knowing all the right things to do and doing all the right things. I definitely fall into that category sometimes. Yes, the best security in passwords is to have every single password have no relationship to any other password, and to have them all make absolutely no sense. That's not true of all my passwords. It's not. I'm human. Really good practice is to always have multiple backups. I really should. I don't. It's something I should work on. But I've got a lot of data, so it's painful to back all of it up. But I really should. We have our photographs, most of our photographs, on a hard drive connected to one of our computers, and then a special backup of that. And we do occasionally actually pull out a second hard drive and clone it, just for real safety's sake, because that's one of those things like, oh, if you lost all that, it'd be really bad. You don't want to find out, by the way, that your backup's bad when your hard drive dies. So every once in a while, feel free to dig into that backup and see that your files are there and see that everything's working okay, because it's regular maintenance. It's like taking your car in for maintenance. It's no different. These are magical devices, but they're just machines. I love them. I spend all my time with these electronic devices, and I have a great time with it, but I have no mistake. They're completely fallible things. And so you have to remember that when you go along.
Something I've encountered, one of the things you have to be careful about when you're using external drives is to make sure that you have, that it uses a file structure compatible with your computer. A couple times I encountered error statements, and I thought, what's going on here? I didn't think I did anything wrong. But as it turns out, the external drive is using a different
File structure.
file structure. I think
Right.
the problem had was using
FAT32?
HTFS.
Right. Okay, so what we're talking about in this case, it used to be all of the drives that you bought came automatically formatted in FAT32 for the PC. Now it's literally about 50-50. Half of them come formatted in HFS for the Mac or FAT32 for the PC. The answer is, no matter what hard drive you buy, erase it. Erase it. I mean, if they have software on there that you want, like backup software, copy it to your computer, erase the drive. Because, for example, a drive that works well with an older Mac from about 6 years ago does not work well with a Mac today, because they changed processors 6 years ago, 8 years ago. So we actually use a different formatting structure on the two hard drives. They will work with each other, but when you get into something complex like a backup, there will be errors. So the real answer is, whatever you buy, erase it first, clean slate, and then back up onto that. And when you do, it'll say, well, if you're using this computer, you really ought to be formatting like this. If it's a PC, it's going to say, I can't read this drive unless you reformat it. If you're using Time Machine, it's going to complain that, well, you really shouldn't be backing up to a FAT32 drive, which is a PC drive. So, But all hard drives are the same under the skin and can be erased and used for any computer. All right. Other questions or thoughts? Anything to add to the goulash? Well, we're getting close to our time, so we'll probably wrap it up there. So we've had a good run talking about a lot of different things. I don't specifically have any ideas about where to go next. Do any of you have things that you'd like to talk about next time? Okay. Well, either we'll come up with brilliant ideas or we'll just all have lunch together. If we do continue on, in a month from now, Tandy and I will both be out of town. But how did you like Dusty and Tandy's photography last time? Was it good? So Dusty has been interested in perhaps expanding on that and doing more of a series on photography as well. So I might see if he'd be interested in taking that one and continuing forward. Does that work? Okay, good. Well, sorry the internet part didn't work as well as I wanted to show you the Apple TV, but we'll try it another time. Well, that's it. Yeah, once we get the Time Warner connection down to here, it'll be great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.